Hello, welcome to Gardener's World Live in Birmingham. The team is here to bring you the very best of the show and loads of design tips and plant know-how to take home and apply to your own gardens. And of course, we are announcing the winner of our Every Space Counts competition. So, join me, Carol, Joe, Adam, Arit, Nick and Mark for a celebration of all that is great about gardening. There are 16 show gardens this year with a really good mix across the board. And this one, well, it's actually lots of small gardens put together. It's been designed by the legendary David Stevens. And he's trying to show that there are solutions for every type of garden, every soil, every aspect. And he's put some plants beautifully together. And it's really important you know your soil. So do some tests, make sure you know the aspect and what type of soil you have. And then look at plants that will fit the bill. Now this corner is packed full of plants for alkaline soil, so if you garden on limestone or chalk, these should be perfect for your garden. We've got pensimons, a lovely deep ruby red one over there, and a nice pink one here too. And this is the perfect time of year to take cuttings as an insurance policy to get through a harsh winter, but also to grow some more plants to spread around the garden. There's one of my favourites too here, which is Serrata stigma wilmotianum, the hardy plumbago, and David's used it perfectly just for breaking the edge of paving. It has these cobalt blue flowers all through the summer, and then the foliage turns a really lovely autumnal hue. But if you have alkaline soil, but you want to grow some acid plants, well, there's a solution for that too. Well, the answer could be to build some raised beds, and then you can put any compost you want in them. Here we've got ericaceous compost and acid-loving plants like the Nandina domestica and the beautiful Japanese maple at the back. But raised beds are brilliant in lots of ways because you can build them up over hard landscaping areas, so you don't need any soil to start with. They also bring the planting up to eye level, so you're looking through it more. It's more accessible to garden, and also you can perch on the edges of them, which is really nice. I do love a raised bed. This is my favourite border here, and the plants have been chosen for their tolerance to drought. So once they're in, they really won't need watering at all. And it doesn't mean you can't get great colour into a border. Just look at the combinations here. This is Anchusa azurea Loddon royalis. It's an incredible blue, an azure blue, and it looks perfect next to this Lychnis coronaria. Just keep flowering all summer long. It's called aptly Gardener's World. There you go. David has shown throughout his garden, it doesn't matter what soil you've got, what aspect you've got, there is a wonderful planting combination for you. This garden, called Made in Birmingham, is a real showstopper. It seems to exemplify everything that you want from a show garden. It has drama, it has colour, you've got train building, you've got breweries, you've got wonderful cut flowers, but it is dominated by a full-size railway carriage along the back. I've got the designer with me, Paul Stone. Paul, what was the inspiration for this garden?
Well, we wanted to make a big connection with Birmingham. It's a central hub of activity in the country for produce and for transport, so having a train as your most expensive fence in show gardening history made sense.
I know from visiting many allotments in Birmingham how wonderful the vegetables are, and I have to say my vegetables look half as good as that. I'd be delighted. Tell me the story of the cut flowers.
There's a fabulous wholesale market right in the centre of the city distributing those cut blooms all around the country. I was very fortunate to find a local group of volunteers to grow from seed back in January all these lovely annuals, and they did such a good job, planted it up. So grown in Birmingham and planted by Birmingham people.
Now, if there was one thing, one little detail that you think anybody could take from this garden over and above the tree, what would it be?
Well, how about not worrying that your garden has to look like a billiard table to grow vegetables on? Loads and loads of very successful growing on railway embankments proves that your veg can grow on a slope.
It's a good tip. It's a good tip. Well, thank you for creating this, because it is going to give a lot of pleasure to a lot of people. Well done.
Thank you, Monty.
Away from the show gardens, it's a real celebration of summer in the floral marquee. With 89 exhibitors, I'm on the lookout for plants set to cause a summer sensation. How about this for pure drama? This is Ipamere, Star of Yalta. At first glimpse, you might associate it with bindweed. It's closely related, but bindweed's white and boring and a nuisance. This is just so rich and velvety, with these gorgeous purple trumpets. If you look even deeper into the flowers, there's dramatic dark red in there too. Now it's an annual, easy to grow from seed and germinate much more readily. And don't forget, it's called Morning Glory, so put it somewhere where you can really appreciate it first thing, because by the afternoon it'll start to fade and fizzle, but the next morning it'll be there again. And talk about returning, Hardy's, who created this beautiful stand, have been coming to Gardeners World Live for the last 25 years, and they never fail to produce an absolutely brilliant exhibit, packed with hardy perennials, with the odd glamorous annual too. Well, if you want to cause a real sensation, why not go for this gorgeous trollius? It's called Dancing Flame. You need to have damp, rich soil if you're going to grow it successfully, but the flowers absolutely glow. It looks wonderful amongst like-minded plants with green foliage, hostas and ferns. But you can bet that if you include Dancing Flame in your mixture, those flowers are really going to pack a punch. This stand seduces you. You imagine yourself in the midst of the Amazonian jungle. Everywhere is green and dense, and then suddenly there are these sparks of bright, brilliant colour. They are bromeliads. This Apemere is a perfect example. This is known as the inflorescence. The actual flowers are tiny, almost like eyelashes, all along the edge of that. But the purpose is, of course, to draw in pollinating insects. The flowers would never do it on their own, they're far too tiny. But it's not just for these brilliant inflorescences that we grow these plants. Lots of them have gorgeous foliage. Take this Freesia, for example, with great marbled leaves, forming a funnel. They actually grow on the branches of trees, and they only take 8 to 10% of their nutrients and water actually through their roots. The rest is fed in directly down that funnel. So when you're watering them at home, don't water the roots, water the funnel. If you're going to grow them in a pot, then use orchid compost or something very, very free draining. If you like, you could take them on a summer holiday and take them out to a shady place outside. But they're very, very tender plants, so bring them back in for the winter.
The great thing about Gardeners World Live is that there are so many planting ideas that have been packed into the show gardens and on the stands. With so many of us heading out on our holidays this summer, we need to know plants we buy now are still going to look good when they're left home alone. One group of plants that can really look after themselves are those from the Mediterranean basin. They like hot, arid, dry conditions and need very little watering. A lot of our herbs come from there, such as rosemary, thyme and bay. Now what I like to do before I go away is take a really good harvest of my herbs, enjoy them in a meal, and that way I know that they're going to reshoot whilst I'm away. One tip is if you have your herbs in a pot, is to pop them on, put them in a larger container. That way there'll be a greater volume of soil which can take up more water, which will help the roots. So what I would say is give them a really good soak, and whilst you're in the Mediterranean having your little holiday, your plants will be back at home having theirs too. Pelargonium is the perfect plant that is more than happy to be left home alone. Now, the reason for that is that this plant has got a fabulous leaf that is quite leathery, and underneath its underside there are very fine hairs, and the combination of that means that it's very, very slow to lose water. So it means that when you give it a good soak, it's got these fabulous, really fleshy stems, and it can take up water into the plant, but very, very slowly release it into the atmosphere. So what you would do before you go away is to cut off all of these flowers. I know that feels counterintuitive, but what that will do is stimulate reflowering. Put it in a shady area, knowing that this little baby is going to be waiting for you when you get back, ready to bloom again. This group of plants are quite different to what we've just looked at, and they are stunning. We have the fabulous cacti, certainly on trend at the moment. Also as well, things like the agave and the succulent groups. I love this Agave Niagara, it's so beautiful, it's wonderful spikes and fabulous colour. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about how they work. We've got this beautiful, thick, fibrous stems that are brilliant at holding and storing water and all of their nutrients. They have these very, very spiky thorns, which are, yes, to protect them, but also as well help to kind of keep water storage. So what you need to do is ensure your compost is still free draining. We want to make sure that they don't sit in with too much water. Give them quite a soak. Leave them to their own devices while you go and lie down on that sunbed.
All this talk of plants and holidays is really making me want to pack my bags, but if, like me, there's no holiday on the horizon for you, why not check in with Rudbeckie's nursery? It's full of amazing exotic plants that can really make your borders take off.
People are always amazed when they come here and they walk onto the nursery and they have that sense of being somewhere else, the Caribbean or South America, and then realising that they're in Taunton. We specialise in exotic plants, and we've run the nursery here for about 15 years. We tend to have damp woodland zone for tree ferns and ferns. We tend to have a dry tunnel for things from Mexico, from the desert. A jungle house, which is always a bit hot and humid. I think my passion for exotic plants came from travelling. It's the challenge of being able to try to grow these and make your garden look like your favourite holiday destination. There's something incredible about being able to put those textures and leaf shapes and colours together and create from scratch something that is wonderful and people enjoy. This is Tetrapanax Papariferex, an amazing plant for the exotic garden. Huge leaves, will grow in sun or semi-shade. The leaves sometimes will get 1.5 meters across. It is deciduous, and from something like this to something like this in 4 or 5 years. My knowledge of exotic gardening is through growing these plants in this country. Some things work and some things don't. You can't read books about this stuff. You have to give it a go. You have to try it. If you want a garden you're never going to lose anything in, then this probably isn't for you. But if you're willing to take a bit of risk, you can have a garden that's glorious. Nothing says exotic like bananas. This is Musa Basjuk, the hardest banana you can grow. It comes from Japan and China. We've had it through -18, but for the first 2 or 3 years you put them in, they will need some winter protection. They tend to come through winter with this papery old leaf on it. You can peel that off in spring to give this fresh green looking stem. When you get bananas on them, they do look really dramatic. Unfortunately, they're very small and inedible. We do 80 different types of bamboo here roughly, from clump forming to things that will take over 1/4 acre in 5 years. The best bamboo we do here is Foggesia. For most gardens, it's clump forming, grows in various heights from 6 foot up to 16 foot. Great for garden use. They'll grow in full sun or semi-shade. Great for screening or in a pot. They're amazing because they give you movement and noise in the garden. So very, very useful. It's just making sure when you buy a bamboo, you don't buy it in ignorance, that you know what you're getting. Because bamboo can have a really bad press. If you know what you're buying, there is a bamboo for every location. We propagate a lot of the bamboos here ourselves because they're not always commercially available. It's a very simple process. A saw, cut the bamboo in half. A bit of compost in the bottom of the pot. Plant in the middle. Firm around with fresh compost. If you've got bamboos in pots, it's actually very, very important to every 3 or 4 years divide them out because they'll want the root space. When we do exhibits at shows, you can always tell a desert to jungle stand because usually it's got the biggest plants on it. It's very dramatic and it shows that you can have this look in this country, in your own back garden.
Rob, your stand is looking fantastic. Are you pleased with how it's come together?
Yes, we had a few trials and tribulations, but I think it looks beautiful now. It's all come together in the end.
Now, there's 2 plants drawing my attention here, the first of which is Simultaneous, which is an extraordinary plant.
It's an amazing plant from New Zealand. It grows like that, that's its juvenile foliage. Once it gets above the size that a moa bird can eat it, it drops that foliage and then has normal sort of green leaves and grows into a normal looking tree. Fabulous thing.
And then lurking behind you here is this amazing collocation. You can see the extraordinary hydrophobic leaves it has.
Yeah, a wonderful, wonderful plant for the exotic garden. The leaves get huge. They use them in Asia as dinner plates, and then the root they eat as taro, which is a main source of carbohydrate.
So both edible and beautiful. I mean, what an extraordinary garden plant. I think the stand has come together beautifully. Congratulations on everything. Well done.
Thank you, Nick.
Where it all started for me, building show gardens at Gardeners Worldwide. I came here with Jeff Hamilton and we used to design and build gardens. And you know what, it's only as you get older and you look back, you realise the man trusted me to come here, in a sense, with his name. But it was that direction that he gave me and that opportunity made such a difference to my career. And do you know what, it can really give you a great start. The Young Landscapers Award is a scheme run to encourage aspiring landscape gardeners. The 2 proposed gardens have been designed by Dermot Gavin, but it's up to these young men on how they bring the designs to life. Both teams are competing against each other for the top prize, and judging will commence shortly. So the pressure is definitely on. First up, we've got Lawrence and Jacob with the square garden. This sharp-looking design consists of a central focal point, stone-raised beds, and a floating bench that really invites you into the space. Enjoyed it?
Yeah, hard work.
Really hard work,
good.
really long hours, really stressful, but very satisfying. Yeah.
But what do you think you've learned out of it?
Timing, really.
Yeah.
There's no overrunning. When the show opens, that's it. You're done.
So where do you want it to lead?
To the top.
To the top, I like that.
Yeah.
Aim for the stars,
Yeah,
as they
just
say.
work on the best gardens possible, work at the highest level possible.
They're up against Ryan and Dan. Here, they've opted to keep flowers to a minimum. The round shapes in the sculpture at the back are reflected in the paving and decking. And the acer at the front makes a real statement. First questions, boys. Have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, the judging. Feel nervous, or?
You can't really change it now, can you? Try my best, so that's all you can do, really.
And do you know what? That's what it's all about, isn't it? You've come here, you've had a real good go, and enjoyed it, haven't you?
Yeah, even though it has been a stressful week, I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So the gardens are ready, the scene is set, and it's time for judging. So this is it, this is the awards time. It's where everyone finds out what's on merit at all the show gardens. Where the young designers are up first. How you go?
Right, the winner is Jacob and Lawrence.
Absolutely brilliant. Well done, boys. straight away, your face went from being... How's it feel?
Brilliant.
A little bit more than brilliant?
Yes.
It's not sunk in yet.
I swear, am I?
No, don't swear. But you know what, well done. Enjoy the week. You deserve it, both of you. It's a superb little garden. In their early 20s, you know, it's incredible. You just don't know where it's going to take them.
Well, congratulations to those young landscapers, and it's great to see young people coming into the industry, and who knows, they may be the next generation of Chelsea designers. There's still plenty to come. Nick's off exploring what makes a perfect partner in the plant world. Mark meets a first-time exhibitor who isn't scared of a challenge, and Adam reveals the winner of our Every Space Counts competition.
The winner of this year's competition. I'm loving this now, I really am.
There's plenty more bright new talent in the smaller gardens too, and 5 have been made by members of the Association of Professional Landscapers, and what's nice is they're a collaboration between designer and landscaper. This one's called This Wildlife. It's a family garden and it's packed full of really lovely ideas. I like this table. It's been painted with a blackboard paint so the kids can get really creative with their chalks while they're eating their lunch. And also there's herbs growing in the middle of it so they can pick them and chuck them straight on their pizza. This garden's called Across the Board, and it's a great solution for what was a sloping garden. So it's been terraced. It's all about the hard landscaping for me. The steps bring you up nicely to this top level where there's this deck that runs through, wildflowers either side, and I really like that gabion walling at the bottom filled with limestone. And it's picked up at the back here with these piers which frame the living wall really nicely and creates a lovely backdrop to the garden. I really like this clipped hornbeam cube. It's really doing an important job in this garden. For a start, it's a fulcrum. The whole design works around it and it adds architecture to the planting. Now, a specimen like this would cost you a few quid, but see it as an investment. It's worth it in this case. And then it brings you down to another level, and this is a much more intimate yet sociable space with the L-shaped seating all meeting each other. A really nice little sociable area here under the shade. This feels nice and intimate, and it's a great solution for a sloping garden. The theme of these gardens is a place for entertainment, and this design by Martin Wilson has really hit a spot because you can imagine it as a party space and a place just to relax in too. If you've got a limited space, one of the problems can be seen as getting height into the borders. Fabulous multi-stem tree, and not just one of them, he's used 3, and 1, 2, 3, which has a nice rhythm, keeps the eye going, but really does break things up at eye level. They are just fabulous trees. They've got peeling mahogany bark, so even in the winter when they drop their leaves, there's winter interest there. And that colour is picked up nicely over here with this black elder. Again, a fabulous plant, great foliage, and the flowers are set off. It's almost a complete composition in itself. And those plants really pick up with this rusty wood-burning stove. So it's really been nicely thought through, and those coppery tones are picked up on the grasses through the borders. And just punctuation of bits of orange flowers which are picked up in the furniture and some of the stylings throughout the garden too. And what I like, again, part of the structure are these box balls, different sized box balls just dotted through the borders, a lovely simple rhythm, nice and soft. They will grow in sun, they'll grow in shade, they'll grow anywhere, just keep them nicely clipped. One of the hard landscaping structures he's got here is these simple frames. Now, if you put a pergola into a garden, it can get shady, it can feel a little bit oppressive underneath. But these frames do a job of framing the long view, breaking it up, almost framing it so you're drawing the eye through, but they also split it up into a series of rooms. And these frames are also used to fix these yachting cables to grow a climber up, and in this case, Trachelospermum jasminoides. We've seen it many times, but it's a classic. It's clothed to the ground in evergreen foliage, and those beautifully scented flowers are just where you want them, at nose height. Absolutely delicious. Well, these APL gardens are packed full of ideas, and two landscapers who are back for the second year running pride themselves on spending as little as possible to make what they hope is a really inspiring garden.
We do stuff that is a little bit different. We really enjoy introducing people to new ideas and inspiring people to upcycle and use different materials. We're picking up other people's rubbish and we're reusing it, recycling it to create sort of low maintenance gardens. My name's Peter.
My name's Monty.
We are the Hairy Gardeners.
When we first met at uni,
I was already doing a landscaping course, and then we went and did a garden design degree together. From that we decided to set up a landscaping design company, and it's all gone from there really.
That's it, and we've been getting hairier ever since.
Our garden is called Imagination in the Raw. It's a 10 metre by 6 metre garden, and it's designed to be viewed from two sides.
Right, well, we're in Peter's garden. We've actually started to lay everything out in preparation for...
It was going to be trucked out, and we've just thought we're going to use that. We've cut the front off it, and we're now going to be putting a seat inside, cushion, clean it up a bit. Perfect nice sitting area, bottom of the garden.
So for us, it's a lot about having that social element in the garden, isn't it? About people talking, about people looking at the different materials, engaging together, and also telling that story.
Now we're studying going to be the dining entertaining area. It's going to have a nice stone on the floor, but then above that's going to be this reclaimed timber pergola, and then that's going to get supported by poured concrete walls.
This is an example of the concrete walls that we are going to be making here. Simple pallet wood just screwed and nailed together, and then we've just pulled this down here, and you can see really effectively the knots that are on this concrete and all this texture from the timber. Let's just let this timber speak for itself here and really marry together with this concrete, and they can really complement each other.
The timber was the first thing we saw. We saw and we thought we'd love it. We've got to use it. It's something that the general public can get readily and easily. You don't have to pay a huge amount for it. And then from that, we decided what plants are going to work well with this style of planting. One of the main features is going to be the wild planting. So instead of having grass and turf, we're going to have wild meadow planting, lots of different coloured flowers popping up through that. So that's going to really soften all the hard structures, all the hard walls. The message we're trying to get through to the public is about recycling, about reusing materials that people are just throwing away every day, and making the most of them. We got the steel from a local steel company, and it was recycled, but we're allowed to pay a bit for it.
That's the bit he's doing there. And flip that over, and then that's that end piece that's going to sit on there, is it?
Yeah, basically we're going to sort of introduce that into a garden to sort of create the main structure of the garden. It's going to give the length to the garden, it's going to stretch your view.
And then we also picked up some glass, and they were actually free, and then we're incorporating them into some sliding doors in the garden, which, again, big feature for us, which are made out of pallet wood frame, and yeah, they're really going to come in handy. In terms of the audience for this garden, I think we've noticed in our lives just how busy things are, and we want a low maintenance garden, but we don't just want an area of gravel with a few plant pots on it. We want an area that's interesting, engaging, lots of stuff to talk about, and low maintenance. In terms of the show garden, it is ambitious, and that's what we like. We don't think that you can keep pushing boundaries if you're not brave enough to try new materials together. I think there'll be a little bit of intrigue in our garden from people. There'll be a fresh sweep of people who will just be inspired and really, sort of keen to take a bit of that home with them.
People will be intrigued and inspired by your garden. Upcycling, recycling, you've done it with style, so much design.
I think that's the point, isn't it? We really wanted to show that you can have a magnificent garden with upcycled materials.
Yeah, and that detail leads you up to this amazing structure.
Yeah, well, we see so many pergolas that are made of sort of standard plain timber, and we thought, right, we really need to create something where I never thought of using a sleeper up there.
It brings a great cohesion to the space, but the planting is important to you guys as well. It's not just about the hard landscaping, is it?
We're wanting a sort of real intimate, sort of romantic sort of look to the planting, so it'll soften this really hard structure.
It's beautiful, and that pool with its reflective quality is just gorgeous. So what's through there then?
Well, it's time for you to come and get in the bath, Joe.
Really? Yeah. I was a bit worried about the bath, I'll be honest with you, but it looks great nestled in there, doesn't it? Yeah. You've got a sandpit?
Sandpit in there, yeah.
These sliding doors brilliantly, don't they?
Yeah, great bit of fun in the garden.
And I love this wildflower planting as well.
Yeah, it's a really intimate area, the seating's low, so you're sort of hidden away in the back corner.
Yeah. The whole design works brilliantly. This is so stylish, there's so many ideas. You've got a gold medal. I'm not going to big you up anymore. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're all guilty of going to garden shows, nurseries and garden centres and grabbing that one wow plant. But I'd like to advocate a slightly different approach. Instead of just getting the one plant, how about buying in trios or in twos? In other words, plants that will complement each other in terms of colour, texture and form. That way you can get home and put an instant set of plants into your borders that are going to look great straight away. My star plant here is Salvia Caridona, and the way I always like to work out pairs or trios at a garden centre or show is to literally physically carry it around and try them out. Now, next to me here is a pink scabious. If I put the salvia next to it, suddenly it completely changes the tones of the salvia. The pink parts of the bud really pop out and the blue of the flowers really shine. Now, the other plant that's catching my attention, I think, to make a perfect pair is the Rudbeckia. And if I pair these up, make each other shine. It's known as simultaneous contrast, and it makes them look brighter than they really are. So if I was buying today, I think this would be the pairing I'd go for. My next star plant is this gorgeous little coreopsis, and it's called Bengal Tiger. It has those beautiful multi-tonal flowers, so yellow pickety around the edge and burgundy in the centre. Now I want to try and make it work as a trio combination. So the first thing I looked for was a yellow, and I've gone for this lovely little poppy. It's called Moon Dance, and it has almost a chartreuse tone to it, but it picks this yellow quite successfully. And then the next part of the trio is this lovely grass. It's a pennisetum. Now it's quite similar to Purple Majesty, but it's one called Vertigo, and its burgundy tones beautifully replicate the burgundy tones at the centre of the coreopsis. And so there's a contrast in form, in texture, in height, but they're all bound together by that unity of colour. I think it makes a great trio. My final star plant is this, which is known as the Chinese foxglove. And it's all about bold foliage and bold flowers. So to create a perfect pair, I need a foil which is really light and delicate. And I reckon this Miscanthus Morning Light does the trick. The Miscanthus picks out the stripes and the Romania, the colours pop out, the form pops out. You know, next time you're at a flower show, garden centre or nursery, be brave, grab some plants, try them out together, and you'll come up with some beautiful solutions.
I suppose hostas are the classic plant for shade. Lots of us grow them in the ground, but some people grow them in pots. And I think the whole idea of growing a hosta in a pot is wonderful. For a start, you can study it. You can move it too and put it exactly where you want. There's such a fantastic array of them, but this one in particular is unusual. It's called Paradise Island, and it has these dark red stems. In the spring, the leaves are bright yellow, and then gradually they become greener and greener, but they always have this dark green margin. Now, a lot of people think of shade as being a real problem, but there's one woman here who set out to show that not only is it not a problem, but it presents a golden opportunity.
Gardening's always been a form of escape and therapy for me. I just tend to lose myself with the plants. My name is Lynn Moore, and this year at Gardeners World Live, Before I ran a nursery, I was a senior fingerprint reporting officer working for the Metropolitan Police, and I'd done that for 25 and a half years before I left the Met. Right from an early age, I can remember being in the garden with my grandfather. One of my earliest memories was picking snowdrops and violets and driving my nan absolutely mad with 1,001 little vases on the kitchen windowsill. But Grandad was always so encouraging. The nursery was started back in 2006 as a result of me doing a garden design course at a local horticultural college. As a fingerprint expert, I used to have to make sure I had very good attention to detail doing what I was doing. Now I still have that attention to detail. When we moved into our existing garden, we inherited a lot of mature trees. I had to learn very, very quickly what would grow in the shade. So hence my love of all shade plants began. We like to classify our shade plants that would be suitable for 4 different areas of shade. You would have deep shade, but that would also be whether there was moisture in the soil or not. The same with light shade. Is it in a lightly shaded position? Again, is the moisture in the soil or is there not? In the garden adjacent to the nursery and under this beautiful tree, we find we have an area of light shade. Plants that we would plant in this particular area would receive sun in the early morning and also in the late afternoon. We have this beautiful coppery fronded fern called Dryopteris erythrothora. The plant here with the dark crimson stems and flowers is called a stilby fanal, and this very ferny foliaged plant at the front is called Aruncus horatio. All of these plants would be suitable for an area in shade where there is an amount of moisture in the soil. Hostas offers such a wide range of colour and form. There are so many variegated types that in combination with other shade plants would really look fantastic in a garden setting. This lovely blue one here, very upright habit, is called Crossregale, and this other rather large one here with lovely green and yellow foliage is Hosta Sage. Not the most attractive name, but is a favourite of ours anyway. We have to make sure that the pots we put them in don't have a lip because the little critters hide underneath the lip. As soon as we notice a leaf has a nibble, we're then looking to... At Gardeners Wildlife, we hope to have quite a varied range, especially for dry shade, which seems to be the biggest problem that the public seem to feel they have. A lot of people are obsessed by flowers, but try and think about the foliage, the texture, the form, the colour. It won't be gaudy, it won't be shouting out, there'll be real subtleties. I'd just like to make sure that people don't think that shade's a problem, because if we can embrace shade as being a real opportunity to grow some exquisite plants, then our gardens will be so much better.
It's your very first time at Gardeners Wildlife and you've won a gold.
I know, absolutely amazing, we're so delighted.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So you grow almost exclusively shade-loving plants, but what prompted you in the first place?
I've always loved hostas, and when we moved into our current garden, we inherited a lot of mature trees, so I had to find out very quickly what would grow beneath those trees. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire, so lots of research, and then that's now evolved into doing what I'm doing now.
And it's so relevant to people because even if they haven't got big trees, everybody's got some shade, haven't they?
Absolutely. Could be next door neighbours' trees even, next door neighbours' fence, your own fence, the garage, the wheelie bin.
Dry shade is a really awkward place to find plants for, but what would be your major recommendations?
For dry shade, we have a number on the stand. We have some epimedium. Geranium nodosum is also a big favourite of ours and does really, really well for us.
And you've got a really gorgeous penstemon over there that I've never seen before.
Penstemon smallii, one of our favourites. Absolutely love it.
Well, I think it's a huge inspiration, your stand. When people start, then just like you, they're not going to be able to stop, are they?
No, it is quite addictive.
Thanks so much.
welcome. Lovely to meet you. Thanks, Carol.
This year, there are 23 beautiful borders, all designed to show you how to make every space count. And I'm really impressed at what can be done in just 8 square metres. Now, I can't choose any favourites, but there are 3 that I'm drawn to. I love this garden, even in this crazy windy weather. And this is all about well-being and restfulness. And it all starts with this beautiful... And you get that lovely sound all the way throughout. And then you get the movement. You get it in the acer, and then in the tall grasses and the verbena behind. And then it's all about sensual plants. It's about wanting to touch them, to smell them, to look at them more closely. We've got pelargonium, which really smells quite minty. And then we have these wonderful, beautiful, muted colours. There's purple, and there's a little bit of yellow, just for a bit of zest and zing. It's a beautiful colour palette, and it really is a restful garden. This is such a great idea. The students from Oak College have just had fun. And something really novel, they've gone for tables and chairs with plants actually inside them. And then, who needs a brolly when you can have a tree growing through the middle of your table? This silver birch, it adds shade and canopy. There's some really great touches in this garden. It's a little bit Bond. We've got all these mirrors going on. And then there's diamonds. They are scattered throughout and on top of the table. This is creativity in the tiniest of spaces. This is an ingenious design if you've got a really shady corner in your garden. Just look at the way they've used a mirror right in the centre. What's great about that is it will reflect any light that comes through, and it also makes the garden feel a little bit deeper. They've used white plants, so they've used hostas, digitalis, and anemones. And the great thing about white is it will lift any shady corner, and white is the last colour you see just as the light goes at night time. It's really good actually to use a vertical element in a small space because your eye is drawn up to the sky, which makes it feel open and larger. And then what about going big? A huge urn right in the middle, so the space itself feels bigger. So go big in a small space. It's really refreshing to see what can be packed into these small borders. These bijou spaces are ideal for budding designers and plantsmen to really challenge themselves and show what can be done in the smallest of spaces. First-time exhibitor Eva Sandman has really pushed the boundaries with her beautiful border.
My name is Eva Sandman. I'm originally from Poland, but I now live on the beautiful Isle of Skye in Scotland. I've been in the UK for 14 years now. I've done a few different jobs in the past. I was a fitness instructor, I ran a gallery, and I had a photography studio, but now I'm firmly into gardening. 5 years ago when we first moved to Skye, I wanted to grow lots of vegetables and I wanted fresh produce and not have to travel too far to the shops. But I can't believe how much that has changed. So the whole garden thing for me has just really taken off in the past 2 years because it just feels right and I don't want to do anything else. I just want to work with plants. So I've started studying as well with Royal Horticultural Society, and I think the best way though to learn about plants is to just work with them. It's brilliant living up here. The best part of it for us, for me as well, is that we go out into the landscape. We kind of call it our back garden. So we go out running on the hills. The stuff that I see when I run, is all these little surprises. I get lots of inspiration from it as well. We've got a lovely Viola Rivignana growing happily here, covered up by the heather. So it's not the easiest of environments to live in for plants. We get a lot of wind, so the plants are growing really low to the ground, and they look for protection amongst other plants as well, but also they try to grow somewhere where there's not too much competition. So this is a Dactylorhiza maculata, heath-spotted orchid. Beautiful little plant. They're so hardy, so I just want to grow more plants when I see these guys growing in the wild in such harsh environments. I love our garden for various reasons. It's a tricky garden to work in because it's so open, it's quite unprotected. I particularly like the evening time when I can sit down and look at all the plants that we've grown. The weather is obviously challenging and we get a lot of rain and a lot of wind. You just have to really persevere and work with your garden with the conditions that you have there. So I have to do a lot of moving of the plants. I might be wandering around the garden from one corner and then not being able to find a spot for it at all. I have a Digiplexis berry canary, which is a plant that reminds me of our garden. So a little bit of our garden in Birmingham. I really love its growth habit and I like tall, spiky plants. So I love them for being so hardy. So they definitely come in with me to the show. Hopefully it'll flower at the right time for me as well. For Gardeners Wildlife, I'm going to be showcasing a beautiful border. We are in my polytunnel, which is my sanctuary, and I love it. My plants do actually love them. They're an unusual plant to have up here. I know that it can be done in this country because they don't need to be overly protected over the winter. They can take a bit of cold and they'll give you lots of joy, which they are giving me. So my Margarita Daisies, summer stars, doing quite well. I'm really happy to report. All of them are grown from cuttings, and I thought if I want lots of colour and a nice flower form, then I can grow my daisies. And normally on Sky it's quite difficult to harden things off, but these daisies respond quite well to being hardened off. So I know I can take them outside and they'll do fine and I won't lose them. Taking all the plants down to the show is going to be a bit of a challenge. It's quite a long drive. It's probably going to take me between 10 and 12 hours. So I have to make sure that I put bubble wrap around them, that kind of thing. So it's a huge worry. I've been looking after these plants for so long. I want to do really well. I want my plants to look really well. And I want people to like my plants and appreciate the fact that I was able to grow so many here on Sky. It's a mixture of emotions, nervousness and excitement. I think in equal measures.
Eva, you must be really excited. It's looking wonderful. How did you manage to get down here?
Oh, someone or something was looking over me, I think. 13 hours in the car. Quite stressful.
Getting anxious, I must.
Oh, tears of stress came, but...
But you've got a silver merit, so you must be over the moon.
Can you believe it? Silver merit? I was not expecting to be awarded anything. Honestly, I've had such low expectations because I'm such a beginner. I've never done it before. So to hear that verdict was amazing.
The plants are looking really healthy, and of course your echiums have come through really, really well. You must be so proud.
I am very proud of them. You guys did well.
They did very well. And of course the Digiplexus are looking absolutely stunning as well.
They're stealing the show, the Digiplexus.
I think
a new hybrid. Quite different, but quite quirky, and people keep stopping, taking a picture of it and commenting how nice it looks.
Lovely. Congratulations, Eva.
Thank you so much.
It is a beautiful garden, and I know people are always looking at it, so I wish you well with the rest of the show.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Now, you've all voted in your thousands, and it's time for Adam to reveal our Every Space Counts winner.
Gardening with small space. We are in a position, I suppose, in this country that gardens are constantly getting smaller, and how creative we become with those spaces. But you know, this year we've been on this mission to find the best small garden in the UK. So we set the competition. The garden couldn't be any bigger than 6 metres by 6 metres. We managed somehow to narrow it down to 5 finalists. So first of all, we have Mike's garden, 35 square metres of a hidden tropical space. And actually it was full of drama and it was full of excitement. And what I loved about it as well is you could create a wonderful garden, but he could pick it up and he could move most of it with him if he moved on. So that for me was a great one. Next one was massive at 25 square metres. Chris and Rachel, superb use of reclaimed bricks and this lovely little tiny courtyard that was full of plants for sun and shade. And then we go on to Sarah, 36 metres square, and this sort of long, lovely curved borders that went through it. And then we got Caroline. This one was the circular patio, and for me it was being brave with how much space was planted in that area. And then the final one is Zoe, which was an interesting goal because it was a basement, and you went down to the space, so it was dark and it was shady, but I think there was a sense of atmosphere to it. Right, the moment of truth. So the winner of the Every Space Counts competition this year is... I'm loving this now, I really am. Zoe. There you go. How does that feel?
Amazing.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. What drove the sort of the design and the collection?
I love stuff, as you can probably see.
So where did you start collecting the pieces from?
Salvage yards, junk shops, yep. Wherever I go, I always pick something up, so...
You've got an eye for detail, and I would imagine when you come down in the morning to flip the kettle on, those doors open and you want to go out in that space, yeah? And I think in reality, that's what it's all about, isn't it? When you come down in the morning and you've created a garden that you want to be in, then you've nailed it, haven't you? So I think Zoe and the rest of the guys should have another round of applause. Thank you very much, you lot. You've been absolutely brilliant. Cheers.
A bit in shock, to be honest. I mean, all 5 gardens were incredible, absolutely incredible, and it just goes to show what we can do with a tiny space. I'm still emotional. I can barely hold this still right now, so yeah, I need a glass of wine.
Amongst all the finalists, it just shows that no garden is too small to be both beautiful and inspiring. And I have to say, it's really good to see small spaces used so creatively.
Yeah, and she was so shocked she didn't expect that in the slightest. The borders have got great ideas for small ideas, as have many other gardens here.
And I do feel that this show in particular, there's masses to take home. It's not just plants, but ideas. That's the thing.
Well, that's nearly time for tonight, but Monty, I'd just like to congratulate you on your OBE. It's a wonderful achievement. Do we call you, is it Lord or Earl Montague of Herefordshire? We're not quite sure.
Thank you, Joe. I knew you would
I
set me up like that.
Congratulations, well done. It's fantastic achievement. But that is all we've got time for tonight.
And I will be back at our normal time next Friday at Long. Until then, bye-bye.
Go on, this train's going to leave without us, Monty.